Skyrim is a terrible game. At least it has been the narrative that I hear a lot lately, that Skyrim was never actually good. So, is it true? Maybe we all have been indoctrinated to think that we like a bad game. In my videos about the ideal of The Elder Scrolls 6, I have been analyzing Skyrim as the last game in the series, and surprisingly, I would often refer to Oblivion as an example for the next The Elder Scrolls game. Not to the last game Skyrim, but to Oblivion. So, where do I start here? I'll probably start with bugs. Maybe I'm wrong, but in my subjective opinion, there were almost no bugs in Oblivion compared to Skyrim. Yes, there were some texture bugs in Oblivion, and maybe in some places you could get stuck. Yes, the game could crash sometimes, etc. But compared to Skyrim, these are nothing. In Skyrim, I've encountered bugs of various types. Disappearance of characters' voice acting, not absorbing dragon souls, which completely block the main plotline, and the mechanic of shouts. Spells that simply don't work and so on. And then there are also mods that fix some bugs but add others. Bugs are a huge issue of test games, and in my opinion they got a lot worse in Skyrim. Let's move on. Dragons are the main feature of Skyrim. The first encounter with Alduin is legendary. Fire raining from the sky, the townspeople are trying to escape, flames and ruins all around, death and horror. Yes, but that's only your first encounter. Dragons are the most disgusting enemies in the game. They interfere with your plans and may appear in a city when you don't expect, and you often don't get any loot off of them. Yes, dragons' remains are very expensive, but also very heavy, and you sell them for half the price, so I ended up just not looting them. Fighting dragons ceases to be interesting like on your third fight. It becomes like a routine. And fighting them without the dragon shout that lands the dragon is a perversion. And even when you use the shout, it is not guaranteed that the dragon will land within your reach. This is especially annoying when you use fast travel to Winterhold College. The dragon will not land on the ground, it will land on the roof of the college, and then it will take off again. And this pattern will repeat until you kill the dragon. And also sometimes you kill a dragon in the air, and it lands behind a mountain and you never get anything from it. Also, dragons kill townspeople. And unlike the townspeople, the number of dragons is not limited. And you are doomed to meet them throughout the whole game, unless you install a mod to remove them from the game. By the way, the fact that the dragons are endless doesn't make any sense, because at the beginning of the game you get a map with the dragon burial sites, and there are about 15 of them in Skyrim. Where did they come from? The rest of the 500 billion dragons, I mean. When I was playing the game for the first time, I hoped that after the end of the main quest, they would stop appearing. Like Gates of Oblivion stopped appearing after you finished the main questline in Oblivion. But no, the dragons continued to appear. If there were really 15 dragons in the game, like on the burial map, and all the battles were designed into epic battles like an Elden Ring, it would be cool. But when a dragon appears in a city, and an 80-year-old granny goes to fight it in hand-to-hand combat, it is not very epic. So you get the idea. Dragons in Skyrim are not epic, but annoying. The same problem we have with vampire attacks in cities. As far as I know, it got patched later, because people complained about it, because it was annoying. And so are the dragon attacks. Now before we move on, let me quickly promote my own channel. I make videos on a broad variety of video game topics. Look for yourself. For example, a discussion about The Elder Scrolls 6, or analyzing cities in games, or a whole series of videos on how the ideal of The Elder Scrolls 6 must look like, and many more. Now let's move on. Now, Skyrim has no variety, and this applies to everything. For example, there is a big problem with the uniqueness of cities in Skyrim, and I'm talking about architecture. There are only 5 cities in Skyrim that are unique in terms of architecture. The rest are just variations of Riverwood, unlike it was in Oblivion, where all the cities look different. Now let's move on to the most interesting part of our discussion: the quests and the plot. They're probably the worst thing about Skyrim. They're just meaningless. Again, here we will compare Skyrim to Oblivion. A small note: Of course, discussing the meaningless of the plot will have spoilers. Let's start with the Mages Guild, or as they call it in Skyrim, the Winterhold College. In Skyrim, you join the college by demonstrating one spell. It is very easy to join the college, but in Oblivion you need to work hard to be accepted in the University of Magic. Now, in Skyrim, leaving aside some details, you find in Sarthal a magical artifact, the Eye of Magnus. On this basis, you are contacted by a member of the Order of Sigil, who says that your discovery has set off a chain reaction of events, and only the player can prevent a catastrophe. After that, the mage of the Order of Sigil disappears, and you take the eye to the college, and do several quests that will help you understand the nature of the artifact. And the bad Talmor guy tries to take the power of the eye to destroy the world. In short, you need to stop him. To stop him, you need another artifact, the Staff of Magnus. So you get the staff, defeat the evil guy, and immediately after the dudes from the Sigil Order appear. And they say that the world is not ready for such an artifact. They take the Eye of Magnus with them and disappear. And there's a question, why didn't they do it right away? And there would have been no trouble. All the efforts of the protagonist are meaningless, because the Sigils take the eye anyway. That is, the world was not in danger, because the Sigils could have simply taken the eye at any time. In Oblivion, you join the guild, learn about the threats from necromancers, led by Manimarco. You overcome the threat in form of Manimarco by killing him. Result: victory over the powerful necromancer Manimarco. There was a threat and you have dealt with it. Now imagine, you do all the quests in Oblivion Mages Guild, get to Manimarco, and then the Archmage Traven teleports at Manimarco as you approach to him, and kills Manimarco in front of you. And then Traven says, "Good job, you have overcome so many obstacles to get to Manimarco and stop the necromancers. You are such a good boy. I could have stopped Manimarco at any time, by the way. I just decided to not do it." That's what happened in Skyrim. Now let's talk about the main quest of Skyrim. Dragons have returned to Skyrim. No one knows where they came from, because everybody thought that all dragons were killed long ago. Over time, it turns out that you are a Dragonborn who has the unique ability to absorb dragon souls, and only by absorbing their souls you can kill a dragon permanently. If the dragon's souls is not absorbed by the Dragonborn, the evil dragon Alduin, the devourer of the world, can resurrect his fellow dragons. So, the main character is chosen to defeat the ancient evil. Again, leaving out some details, the protagonist used an Elder Scrolls to look into the past to gain knowledge on how to defeat Alduin. But it turns out that this is not enough, and although our hero defeated Alduin, he will not be able to kill him in the world of mortals. Alduin escapes to Sovngarde, which is a place where the souls of warriors go after death. Alduin absorbs the souls of warriors to become stronger, but at the same time it is in Sovngarde that Alduin can finally be killed. Leaving aside some details, the protagonist enters Sovngarde and meets the ancient heroes who fought Alduin in the past, and together they go to punch him in the face. And everything seems fine, but a small detail makes the whole main story meaningless. The main character does not absorb the soul of Alduin, you just kill him and that's it. There are theories where the soul of Alduin went, but this is not important to us. What is important is the importance of the protagonist. Does the story need Dovahkiin? The main feature of the Dovahkiin is the ability to absorb dragon souls, and by doing so, kill dragons permanently. But again, you don't absorb Alduin's soul, and in fact, ancient heroes are perfectly capable of defeating Alduin in Sovngarde. If you use invisibility and hide, you can see the battle between Alduin and the ancient heroes, and they can defeat him pretty well. That is, you are not needed. In the world of humans, any ordinary mortal could defeat Alduin. In Sovngarde, the ancient heroes can defeat him as well, and you don't absorb his soul. And with the death of Alduin, there is simply no one to resurrect ordinary dragons. People in the past have dealt with ordinary dragons without the protagonist. So, at no point in the plot you are actually needed. Now let's look at the main quest in Oblivion. You are not the Chosen One. The Chosen One is Martin Septim, and you are his friend and assistant. You have the task to stop Daedra invasion led by Merinos Dagon and Markar Cameron. You defeat Markar Cameron. Merinos Dagon invades the world of humans personally. Martin uses the power of the Amulet of Kings to banish Merinos Dagon to Oblivion and establishes a barrier between the world of humans and Oblivion. The player's role is to help Martin, and you do help Martin. And by the way, unlike in Skyrim, where after the defeat of Alduin, the dragons continue to attack cities and the player, in Oblivion, all gates of Oblivion get closed at the end of the story, so you can see that you succeeded. There is a goal, there are obstacles, and there is the result. Now, the civil war in Skyrim is the definition of meaninglessness. Although this is a very interesting conflict in theory, in reality, nothing changes during the game. There is not even a formal winner, because the High King is never appointed during the game. The only thing that changes after the war is the songs in taverns. Well, maybe the Altar of Talos is added in Solitude, if you've played for the Stormcloaks. And Jarls change in cities. By the way, this is also an issue. In fact, the player often does not even remember who are the Jarls, because they change over time. Now let's talk about the DLCs. In terms of meaninglessness, Dragonborn DLC is fine, but there are problems with the Dawnguard questline. The whole plot of Dawnguard boils down to the fact that Harkon, Serana's father, is up to something bad, and we don't know what it is at the beginning of the questline. Then we investigate what he wants. We get what he wants, the Oriel's bow, and then we go to Harkon himself with the intention of killing him. And then the question is, why not just kill him right away? Why even look for Oriel's bow if you still have to kill Harkon in the end? We bring what Harkon needs right into his hand, both the bow and Serana. He needs both to fulfill the prophecy. Of course, you as the player defeat Harkon, but in reality it doesn't make sense. If the protagonist would not defeat Harkon, the whole world would be in danger. It may seem that you need the bow to defeat Harkon, but no, the bow is not necessary. The bow helps a lot, but if the player is strong, then the battle with Harkon is child's play, and you don't need the bow. It would have been much more logical, at least, to get the bow and hide it somewhere in the Dawnguard castle. But who cares about logic? The whole time, we could have just killed Harkon. Now, the Thieves Guild. In Skyrim, it is not a guild of thieves, it's a guild of bandits. You steal almost nothing, you are a raider. Unlike the quests in Oblivion, where you not only would steal for the guild's plot, but also to advance in the guild's ranks. And then there are the quests of the Daedra Lords. Here we see an improvement from Oblivion actually, but almost all Daedra quests are in the cities. In Whiterun there are 2 Daedra quests, in Falkreath 2 Daedra quests, in Riften 1. I mean the Thieves Guild. This is basically a substitute for Nocturnal quest, which is also not cool. In Solitude 1, in Dawnstar 2 quests. That's insane. In Oblivion, Daedric quests had its own atmosphere. You were exploring the world, you saw the sanctuary on your compass, and you'd go to explore it. Exploring in Skyrim is less interesting because of it. And in the end, it's the developer's laziness. Why come up with a unique quest for the cities if you can shove the Daedric quests there? Now the leveling system. The leveling system in Skyrim works through skill leveling, but there is simply not enough skill points, so you do not get all the perks that you deserve. You can have level 100 of lockpicking, but 0 points invested in the skill tree, because you use them for something else. Thus, your character has been picking locks all game, but hasn't learned a thing. So, returning to the question I raised at the beginning of the video, is Skyrim a terrible game? I think yes, for a time the game was a little overrated, but to claim that it was never good is also wrong. It is just a good game with a lot of flaws. Though I think it is pretty safe to say that Skyrim earned its fame mostly due to the lack of competition in genre of classic fantasy and power fantasy RPG. Just try to think of any AAA fantasy RPG in recent years. In fact, only The Witcher 3 comes to mind. You can also mention Dragon Age, but Dragon Age series is going through tough times right now. And also, the next video on the channel will be a critique of Dragon Age Veilguard. So, subscribe to the channel to not miss it. Now, there is no competition, and hasn't been since 2015, because for a long time the industry has been concentrating on developing multiplayer projects in an attempt to make all the money in the world. By the way, I am planning to do an opposite type of video on what Skyrim did right. So again, subscribe to the channel to not miss that. And don't forget to check my other videos. See you later.